Do you ever find yourself asking the bigger questions? Like, how do we overcome injustice? And is it even possible to save the world? You can come grapple with meaningful questions like those at a free lecture this Sunday called Humility That Overcomes the World. You'll hear from speaker Mark McCurdy's, who will share a fresh look at Christ Jesus' teachings and talk about how the power of God's love can overcome injustices and bring healing to your life. This event is sponsored by First Church of Christ Scientist and is open to all ages, genders, sexualities, religious backgrounds, or lack thereof. The talk is at the Fluno Center on University Avenue. Find out more at christiansciencemadison.com.
Today on CityCast Madison. It's Thursday, so of course we're dishing on Madison's food scene. If you're like us, you probably stayed up late this week waiting for election results to roll in. Participating in the democratic process can work up anyone's appetite, which got us wondering, where's the best place to get late night food in our city? And does Madison even have a late night food scene post-pandemic? To answer that question, we invited Madison Magazine food editor Emma Waldinger on to join me and executive producer Haley Sperling to discuss, and to run down our favorite recs for grabbing a late night bite. It's Thursday, November 7th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. All right. I am here with some wonderful ladies to talk late night food. Haley Sperling, our executive producer, how are you?
Hello. I just ate my lunch, so I'm very excited to be talking about food.
Yo tambien. And we are also here with Emma Waldinger of Madison Magazine. Emma, how are you?
I'm doing well. First time on the podcast, and I'm really excited.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. We love Madison Magazine, and we're so grateful that you could be here. So, man, we also, all three of us love food, so this is going to be fun. Let's first set out some rules here. How exactly do we want to define late night?
That's a really good question that I've been kind of thinking about. And for me, like when I was younger, like in college time, late night really meant anything after bar time. So like anything after like 2 a.m. But now that I'm an older adult, late night means for me pretty much like anything that's after like 10 p.m., which I'm calling the tornado room standard, because that's pretty much like when their late night menu starts. We'll get into those details later, but that's kind of my standard now, is that like 10 p.m. if you're still serving food after that, that's late night. How about you, Emma?
Yeah, I agree. And I think like the parameters definitely shift based on what city you're in. So in Madison, it's like no bar is open later than 2 a.m. So if you're out past 2 a.m., you're either a student or a service worker. Otherwise, why are you still out? I think like for me, it's definitely like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., especially on like a weeknight. That's usually like around 11 p.m., midnight. That's about when I'm like craving specific like late night food. But yeah, definitely 10 to 2 in Madison.
I agree. And just having worked in restaurants, it's just like the kitchen is closed at 10 is often. It's not everyone, but that's like a pretty good parameter. So we have some things laid out, which is really excellent. And yes, we do not do late night like New York City does late night, but we do have a late night for us.
Yeah, I also have to say, like, also in Madison, it constantly baffles me how some restaurants close at 8 p.m. So I honestly think we could define late night in Madison as anything after 8 p.m., especially on a weeknight.
That's so true.
Weeknight
rules. Yeah, weeknight rules is really anything like after 8 p.m. I'm kind of thinking about like weekends, I guess, at this point, but that's such a fair call out.
Yeah. And I got to a restaurant for dinner at like 9:15-ish a couple of weeks ago and thinking, oh, that's safe. They close at 10, but they sat us in the bar. Like they closed the dining room down, so.
Yeah, they're like, good luck.
Good luck. So Emma, you write for Madison Magazine. How, just for reference, like into the Madison food scene are you? And dare I say the late night Madison scene specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely eating out as much as I possibly can, trying to experience as many new restaurants and bars as I can get to. I would not consider myself a huge night owl, but I'm also not an early bird. Like as soon as I can get to bed at night and as late as I can wake up is great. I do find find that there's a lot of times around 11 p.m. though that my boyfriend and I are laying in bed and it's this kind of repeat conversation of, you know what sounds really good right now? And then we fill in the blank of something that sounds really good. It's like, banh mi sounds really good right now. And then usually the conversation ends with, okay, well, we'd have to move to New York if we wanted that kind of variety late at night.
That's so real.
So I haven't really had like a lot of late night food or like really late night experiences since I was in college. I went to UW-Madison and I was definitely like going out Thursdays and Fridays and sometimes like Saturday nights. So it would be like waiting in the line at Ian's or going to Paul's Pelmeni for pelmeni. But these days, I'm really only out late at night if there's an occasion.
Yeah. I was going to say my late night considerations have also completely shifted. Like when I was in college at UW-Madison, it was Paul's, it was Ian's, and now things have shifted for sure. And Haley, like I want to ask you, are you an early bird or a night owl?
That's such a good question. I also exist in a weird gray zone, but definitely lean more towards the nighttime. That's definitely my time. Waking up early, I love the thought. The execution is not there for me, though. I prefer the night.
I'm shifting a bit. I am shifting intentionally, but also just because I'm getting old. So I'm becoming more of an early bird. But you know what? As Madison continues to grow, have you noticed anything, Emma, like in terms of a growing appetite for late night food?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely think the contingency of like 22 years old to 32 years old is like definitely growing in the city. We've always been thought of as a college campus town. So that late night crowd was more 18 to 22 years old on the younger side. But now that all these Epic employees and other like younger employees for these big health tech companies are coming into Madison and moving into the downtown area, I think there's definitely more appetite for it. But I don't know if I'm necessarily seeing the growth in the late night dining scene matching that growing population necessarily. I talk to a lot of service workers in my work, and it seems that like there's a culture shift away from kind of that late night culture of ending up at the bar after a shift, because a lot of people don't want to be a part of that self-destructive lifestyle or like any of that kind of like addiction enabling work culture anymore. So I'm also like kind of wondering if service workers are even into the idea of bringing in more late night dining and late night into Madison.
Right. There certainly are some parallels to the scene as former workers, so Haley and I. But, not for everyone, but I've definitely heard that as well. And, we also have to consider, it feels like Madison went through a really distinct shift away from late night during and after the pandemic. Like, I think that's super true. And we're not alone. So according to a recent CNN report, the number of restaurants offering 24-hour service fell 18%, in the nation from 2020 to 2024. That's not really surprising. I've also heard from some owners like thought processes of, hey, we're a really popular bar and actually we don't even want to stay open till 1 because to quote Chapel Roan's mom from her song After Midnight, like nothing good happens after midnight. That's not true, by the way. Like we're not anti late night. I'm pro late night. But yeah, I definitely have felt those shifts. And Haley, there are more than a few reasons why the city doesn't necessarily want business to open late at night, right?
Yeah, I mean, like this is a conversation that the city itself has been having for a long time. If you guys recall, like back in 2018, the city council like officially sort of killed its late night vending program. And that is what allowed several food carts to be out on the 400 and 500 blocks of State Street out until like 4 a.m. So I remember being a student and like, it'd be well into the night, well past bar close. And I'd be like, yeah, we're going to hit up XYZ food cart. And like, that was great. But also, it did lead to some problems, like the city was just kind of like, we don't want to do this program, not because of the food carts, but because of all of the extra activities that it is causing. So, when all of your clientele are pretty much just intoxicated 20-somethings, like it's just not a recipe for success there. And so ultimately the city sort of like phased it out into 2023, but it kind of sped up, again, with the pandemic. It's just like no one left the house from 2020 to 2021, 2022. So it's just like, all right, there's like nothing left here. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. And now the city is like just again picking back up that conversation around allowing late night vending. They kicked it off back in April. 5 vendors are now allowed to do late night vending, but now they've moved them over onto Library Mall. So they're kind of shifting where they can be. So it is this interesting conversation, you know, when you get into like the businesses and the administrative aspects of it all. And so, yeah, it's exciting, you know, to see how kind of things are changing and that the city is open to, you know, sort of revisiting these conversations and letting the people eat late at night. Because I don't know, I feel like every month I see someone in the Madison Reddit post like, where can I get late night food? And everyone responds is like, you have to move. Like, it's not going to work.
Which we hate. We hate hearing that because we want to have a vibrant city and like a city that supports different types of lifestyles, including artists and people who have different, you know, want to be night owls. Man, I am wired to be a night owl.
Yeah.
I am. I know that for a fact. I want places to dance. And I want places to eat. And Emma, I'm just like your example with your boyfriend just like stands out to just like you're in bed, you're just like, you know, it'd be great. I want a milkshake. I kind of want some banh mi. I love that so much. Should we talk about the food? Should we like talk about where people can get late night in the way we've defined it?
Okay.
Yes. Let's do it.
Let's kick it off. Let's kick this off with some restaurants where you can get full meals, like talking Tornado, Notchbiel, Lola's, Medjo. Let's get into it. Full meals. Where should we go?
Well, I think that, I mean, my first is, like you said, you know, Tornado Room. They are what truly sets the standard, I think, for me for late night. And they do their late night Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so they start their late night on Wednesday and Thursday at 10 p.m. and then Friday and Saturday at 10:30, and it goes till 11:45. So it's kind of like this little window where you can get in there and you can get a lovely meal.
And don't miss that shift. Don't miss the 10 to 10:30. There is a change once it's Friday, Saturday. I have been the victim of just forgetting that there's a change there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a story now that you mentioned Tornado Room, but I think some of this late night dining also, like, it enables some very fun alternative going out possibilities, especially if you're not super into drinking or you're trying to get away from that culture. I have an old friend who would plan with his buddies. They'd like get dressed up in suits and ties and go to the Tornado Room late night dinner. And they'd always come up with like some fake, really fun occasion. Like they were celebrating one of their friends' divorces or something like that, which was totally fake, but they'd play it out completely the whole dinner. And it's like, yeah, like, you know, in a city where there's maybe not so many places to go dancing, there's a lot of like really crowded college bars. It's like you can go and have fun and do this whole like bit. If you go out to a late night dinner spot, it just creates more possibility.
I'm obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with the bit. I mean, that is the one thing I've always said on the show is that, like, if you can commit to it, I'm so here for it.
Mm-hmm. And Tornado Room has some of my favorite food in the city. Like, my go-to is the Koki Saint-Jacques, which is just, like, mashed potatoes and scallops with a total cream sauce that is just to die for. And I feel fancy. I go there for, like, actual fun celebrations that are real, but I could totally see cosplaying like some sort of Mad Men situation. But late night went away too at Tornado for a second, which was a tragedy. So I'm glad to see it back. And the prices are like much cheaper because it's a high quality steakhouse, you know.
That is the one thing that I really appreciate about Tornado Room, like the late night menu specifically, is that like even if it feels out of your reach price wise to go there for, you know, like a 6 or 7 p.m. dinner, because, you know, there are steaks on the menu that are like $50, right? That's expensive no matter what. But you can get an affordable, you know, quote unquote, affordable meal with that same quality at the same place, which is so awesome. I love their steak sandwiches. The Koki that you mentioned, Bianca, is amazing. The escargot are great. I also love the, what is it? The French onion soup. I love French onion soup.
So good. They do it right.
This episode is brought to you by Etsy.
Oh.
Hear that?
Okay. Thank you.
Etsy knows these aren't the sounds of holiday gifting. Well, not the ones you're hoping for. You want squeals of delight. Happy tears.
How
teach you.
And spontaneously written songs of joy.
I am so happy. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, the song needs a bit of work, but anyway, to get those reactions, make sure everyone on your list feels heard with handmade, handpicked, and designed gifts from small shops on Etsy. Gifts like personalized jewelry, custom artwork, cozy style items, vintage pieces, and home decor to celebrate all of your favorite people and their specific kind of special. For original gifts that say, I get you, Etsy has it.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. So much of your personal info is out of your control, like your insurance provider that has your social security number and your favorite retailer that has your payment details. If they get breached, your information, your identity, is vulnerable. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Speaking of martinis, another place that I've been kind of loving on for late night recently is over on the north side, Lola's. Can we still call her new? I don't know. It's been a little while.
Newish.
She's newish. They're open till 12 a.m. Monday through Thursday, and then 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday. I know they did just recently change their hours, though, for the winter, so be sure to check out their website for the most up-to-date information. But their kitchen is open till 11 p.m. typically on weekdays and 12 a.m. on weekends. So very exciting there. I just kind of had a late night dinner at Lola's, which was so good. And to me, they're kind of like another late night favorite of mine. To me, Lola's is like a North Side Notchbeal, right? Like they do really good pizzas, dumplings, noodles, and the cocktails are amazing. I've had so many good martinis there. I've probably had few too many good martinis there. I don't know. Emma, have you been to Lola's?
Yes, I do. I love Lola's and I love their Passion Star Martini. It's like one of my new go-to drinks. It's such a good martini. But I think to that point of accessibility that y'all mentioned about Tornado Room, it's like at Lola's, you're getting Evan Donnell's quality food. He owns Cadre on the west side and he's a really fantastic chef, but you're able to get the food that he's created at a much lower price point, and you're able to try some of the things that he's interested to make that are outside of the fine dining scene. So I think Lola's, besides being an extremely vibey bar that you also would want to like kind of dress up at and go act a little mysterious maybe, and you know, have a really good night out. I think also that at Lola's, you want to wear something that makes you look really stylish and cool, like the person to go talk to.
You have to match the vibe, right? Like, because at Lola's, if I just show up in a t-shirt, like you're going to look out of place. Not saying you can't, because it does also have that kind of neighborhood bar vibe, especially in the earlier hours. But like, if you're there for late night, like, you know, make it a spectacle. Have some fun with it. Dress up.
I mean, but we have to remember its roots, though, which its roots are the fancy swag, but then also dive bar.
Yes,
so
exactly.
I have shown up after playing tennis looking a mess. So I was like really like resonating with Emma, you saying like, you want to feel mysterious. I feel mysterious whenever I'm in there because they have like booths that you can actually even shut the curtains around like it. And they have totally the sound is decked out so you can have private conversations. Like it's intended to be that way. But yeah, their food is definitely like really solid quality and like comfort foods.
Yes.
You know?
And they also recently started doing these, I don't know if you guys have been there since, but they started doing these like late night taco menus, which are really, really good. I was there a couple of times recently and had one of each of the tacos. They're $3 and they are really fantastic. So yeah, like you said, Emma, like they have this top-notch chef that is producing like all of this super fun food, again, at approachable prices and at approachable hours. Again, if you're not an early bird, you can get there. It's fun.
And Emma, what about other spots for full meals?
Yeah, full meals. I mean, you can go to Ohio Tavern. I think they're still doing it's a little snackier, but they're still doing tacos there. And they even introduced more of like a seafood concept in the last year or two. So that's definitely a spot. Natchspiel, we mentioned, like
Yes.
the OG. Every time I talk to anyone who works in service in Madison, their late night spot is Natchspiel because it's really just like a place that is catered to service workers as well. And you can get pizzas and dumplings and everything else.
And their 3-cup chicken is famous,
Yes.
but their 3-cup tofu is just as good as their 3-cup chicken. And as someone who worked at Natchspiel, I figured I need this recipe.
Yes.
And I learned how to make the 3-cup tofu at home, and was actually somewhat comparable, which, they gave me that recipe, but the food is so good at Natchville. That's probably my late night for life.
I love Natchville. Honestly, it is slowly rising up on the list of perhaps like my favorite restaurant in Madison, just in general, because I just know they're always going to deliver. They're open every day till 1 a.m. They usually serve food that late too. Like, it's just a good spot and a good place, and like no one's messing around with you. The kitchen is tiny. You can literally see them working back there, and they are hustling. The bartenders are great. Shout out to Dave. It's just it's a good place. It's a really good place. I love Natchville. Plus like 500 to the 3-cup situation too.
Yeah, if we're really talking about Madison's definition of late night, like past 8 p.m., I'd have to say a great weeknight spot is Ahan, because they're one of the only restaurants that's open until 10 p.m. pretty consistently. So if you're craving food or you're not even thinking about dinner until 9 p.m. on a weeknight, Ahan is like, obviously great food, but they'll be able to get you some food that late at night.
That's a sleeper. I really didn't even consider that for like a sort of late night scene, but that makes a lot of sense, especially for the weekdays. And when you want something that's going to be simple and so good. And they're doing pretty robust pickup and delivery these days as well.
Yep.
Well, you mentioned the Ohio. It makes me think of like dive bar food. We've got some great dive bars that is, if we're like, oh, what late night food? If we're not going fancy, we're going home. We're going to a dive bar. Emma, what are some top of mind dive bars that you turn to?
Man, I don't know if I turn to any of these, but I know that I would be remiss.
Haley and I will take over. Okay, I'm kidding. You go. No, I'm just kidding.
I would be remiss not to mention Paradise, because
yes,
people swear by the burger at Paradise. Also, this really straddles the line between 20-somethings and college kids, but the Plaza Tavern, the Plaza Burger, you can get lots of other things there. It's cash only, so you have to make sure to bring cash, but like, that's a great snack spot for dive bar food. I know the Caribou is also something people love for their late night burger. And the Harmony Bar, if you're a vegetarian, they have a walnut burger that's really great. So vegetarians can also eat late at a dive bar at the Harmony.
Vegetarians are allowed to have late night. Yay.
Yes. And we're going to have a dive bar conversation soon, so we don't have to go too ham. But I feel like talking, Emma, Haley and I go out all the time. So.
We love the dive bars.
Emma, you should come out with
I would love to. Let's do it.
We're big Boo Burger fans. I also love the fried chicken sandwich at the Caribou.
Yes, that was so good. I remember I had that last time you ordered it, and I was like, that sounds really good. I'm going to get the same thing. And it was amazing. Like, low-key, just a really good chicken sandwich.
Yeah, I don't get it, except for that it's just pure magic at that place. So we've talked about like full meals, we talked about dive bar food. What about casual bites? I know that we've mentioned Paul Palmini's. That was 100% my go-to when I was 19, 20, 21. I miss it, honestly. Like I'm sure everyone, it's not just a young person's food, but what are sort of the delivery casual bites? Oh God, there's also thinking about delivery. I just ordered Glass Nickel for the Packers game, so throwing that out there.
I love Glass Nickel. Shout out to the East Side. Okay, but also before we move from dive bars real quick, I do want to give a shout out to Players, because I do love Players. You can get an amazing burger. Their chicken tenders are great. Their onion rings are amazing. And they usually serve food till about midnight too. So like, it's awesome. It is my go-to neighborhood joint. But in terms of delivery and casual, like you mentioned, Glass Nickel is a classic. And I think also kind of a sleeper too, because people don't really necessarily think about them as late night, but they are consistently open till like 10 p.m. or later during the weekdays, which is awesome. One of my classics as a undergrad, and I've kind of phased it out a little bit, but on those nights that I really need something, Asian Kitchen is there for you.
Oh my God,
no matter
classic.
what.
Classic. Yes.
They're there there for you with a big heaping mound. Usually I get like a sesame tofu and like an egg drop soup and an egg roll, and I'm getting really hungry just thinking about it, even though I just ate.
And they're open until 3 a.m., which I don't think there's any other spot that's open that late.
I don't think so either. Like even the late night, because Ian's is another kind of, casual spot that is awesome. That is just known for the late night drive, but their Francis Street location is open till 2:30 a.m. daily, which is kind of a crazy endeavor to think about. But also when you are just kind of in the bowels of Student Central, like you're always going to have people that are hungry.
It's always a scene. You might hear some of the craziest stories ever, like people standing outside of the Ian spots.
That's so true. I mean, there have been times I have made friends, I have made enemies, I've met a lot of quirky people in the line for Ian's.
Oh my god. Yes, like people want to start fights in the Ian's line. Let's just be honest.
Hungry. They're hungry.
And I have been one of them, not to actually start a fight, but I'm like, how dare you go in front, people cutting the line.
Don't cut the line.
And you took my favorite slice. No. We are foaming at the mouth. How about you? For delivery.
I wish there was later night delivery, because I was also thinking about, like, in Madison, we're such a driver central culture that it's like, if you're being responsible after a night out drinking and you call an Uber, like, can you really have the Uber take you somewhere to get food and then take you home?
Right.
Is that a thing?
I've never done it in Madison. I have done it in like Chicago, where we're like coming back from a concert and we're like, hey, can you drive us through the McDonald's drive-thru? And usually the drivers chill and usually like we'll order them something too. But I've never done that in Madison.
Because if you're not out by a place that has late night dining, you're kind of SOL. Like you just have to get in the Uber and go home. And if no one's delivering, then you're making a pack of instant ramen in your kitchen at 3 a.m.
I've been there too.
Speaking of which, your story, Emma, on late night from earlier this year, like has a like, you don't need to turn your sad instant ramen noodles. I am offended. There is a time and place. Just kidding. For me, I'm like, hitting those late night gas stations to grab some ramen noodles is okay.
No, I mean,
I'm just telling that to myself.
I mean that in such a self-deprecating way, because that is my go-to late night. That is my go-to late night food. It's Maruchan soy sauce ramen. I make it and then I eat it, and then I eat it in my bed, and then I fall asleep with the bowl like on my nightstand.
I love it.
Okay, so we are one. We are one. Okay. I think the last thing that we should get to is, before we wrap, is food trucks. I mean, that's a hot late night ticket.
Yeah, and Madison Magazine, I know you guys just wrote about the new food vendor program that's going on in the city. So Emma, like, what's the deal with food trucks? Are people into this late night vending program? How's it been going? Do we know?
So we've got 5 vendors. The program kicked off on April 17th, and 5 vendors are allowed to operate on the 700 and 800 blocks of State Street between 8 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. Wednesday through Saturday nights. And it looks like the businesses that are added: Sabro Caratano, Marimar on Wheels, Jakarta Barbecue Station, Bit of Brianna, and Thailand in a Truck. I think that definitely adds to like this dearth of just like American bar food, having lots of different options. I mean, I'm not usually craving American food besides French fries late at night. I'm definitely like going for a big bowl of Thai noodles or curry or something like that. So I think it fills a really good gap, in my opinion.
All
so
right.
you got a little bit of everything there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much late night food, you guys. This has been so fun. I hope we made everyone hungry, and maybe we'll see y'all listening out on the streets. Emma, thank you so much for joining us for this roundup of late night food. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and I'm gonna go make some sad instant ramen for lunch, I think.
Yes.
And Haley, thanks so much.
Thanks, Bianca.
That's Emma Waldinger of Madison Magazine, Haley Sperling, our executive producer, and me, dishing on Madison Late Night. If you want to read Emma's piece on Late Night Eats with Madison Magazine from earlier this year, head to our show notes for a link. And y'all, Did we miss any of your favorite spots or any notables? Let us know. Leave us a voicemail at 608-318-3367 so we can play it on the show, or email us at madison@citycast.fm. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with your favorite dining buddy? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take the best care.
Okay, I will die on this hill. I think Burrito Drive is great food. People can come at me. If you have something else to say, send us an email, madison@citycast.fm. This is a hill I will die on.